For a while, we have had Republicans in power, and some way or another, there was Reagan for 8 years, and then George H.W. Bush, and then there was Bill Clinton, who you could make an argument wouldn't be president if it weren't for a third party. And then you had 2 terms of George W. Bush, and then, after Obama was president for 2 years, the House and almost the Senate, if it weren't for the Tea Party, went to the Republicans. So one thing Republicans can do very well, very, very well, is win elections. And this is not by chance at all. Not by chance. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to tell you how Republicans win elections, and maybe some of those ideas could be adopted for not necessarily the Democratic Party, a third party maybe. Okay, so in the 1980s, might have been the 1970s, later 70s, there was a group called the College Republicans. They're still around today, and they had executive leadership that consisted of Ralph Reed, Grover Norquist, and last but not least, their president, Jack Abramoff. These 3 people are part of the reason why Republicans have so much power and they win elections so well. Jack Abramoff was basically the corporate guy, the money guy. He was a lobbyist for various companies or corporate interests. Ralph Reed later went on to lead the Christian Coalition with Pat Robertson. And Grover Norquist started the tax pledge that literally every single Republican signs on to. And that's why George H.W. Bush lost, because he rose taxes, and why literally no Republican will ever raise taxes. So these three people are super important because they basically go on to form the coalition that makes the Republican Party win elections. And they do this by bringing in these separate factions and putting them together. The Christian voters, the business interests who will finance the Republican Party, and last but not least, Grover Norquist with his tax pledge did a little bit of both. That was, people are generally against tax increases, and also corporations are all over that. So you've got these 3 wings, but then you also have a coalition of what I'd call libertarian conservatives. People kind of like they used to be people like William F. Buckley, the National Review. I think he founded it. I can't really remember at this moment. Who basically get people like the NRA and somehow claim that Republicans are more respectful of the Constitution, even though history shows that's absolutely false. So they've got this umbrella of these 4 main factions, and that is enough to build a winning majority. You really don't see this as much in the Democratic Party. Democratic Party, you see minorities and trial lawyers, basically, and labor unions. Labor unions are probably the biggest component of the Democratic Party. But another thing Republicans do very well is they have, what's the way of putting this? a propagandist. I'm trying not to be harsh with this video. By the name of Frank Luntz, who does a lot of focus groups where he takes average voters and he tests certain words on them and then gets every Republican to hammer out those words. Like when George Bush wanted to privatize Social Security, they changed it from privatized to personal Social Security accounts after he poll tested it, and it did a lot better when they did that. He was the guy who told the Republicans to refer to Obama's healthcare plan as a government takeover. Next, the new catchphrase is, we don't have a what was it? We don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. See how many times you hear the Republicans say that. They will say it 1,000,000 times because Frank Luntz has poll tested this and it works. So they've got a guy who is very good with his message. Very good with his message. And all the Republicans will get in line. And then the last, but definitely not the least, is they have conferences where they actually groom leaders to become the future presidential candidates of the Republican Party. And this is massive. This is why there's Romney, Huckabee, Gingrich, why you can name so many big Republican politicians, but not necessarily as many Democratic politicians, because they have these leadership conferences. They have CPAC yearly. They have the Southern Leadership Conference. They used to have religious ones, but not so much anymore. Then now they're having Tea Party conferences. So you see these a lot. And they definitely help groom future leaders. So when you groom a couple future leaders, get their name out there early through these events, then you've basically got a leg up on the competition. So these are some of the things that make it so Republicans win elections, because they have a very good record of winning elections. I'd argue it's better than the Democrats over the last 40 years. Probably way better. And even the Democrats who get elected, look at how many of them are blue dogs. Look at how many of them are centrists, like Bill Clinton. Jimmy Carter, you could even argue, was a bit of a centrist. Obama, you certainly can argue, is a centrist. This is how they do it. And until a third party or the Democratic Party adopts some of these same measures, they are not going to win. End of story.